You ready, John?
I'm ready.
All right. What do you make of this poll? This is from Carolyn A. How can you, and this is me, John, justify signing the Brown letter calling for a ceasefire in light of this?
Oh, no. Okay.
It's a question to me. You do not have to respond to it, John. I'll be brief. What do you expect to have come of that given this reality? And here's a poll of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank since October 7th, the date of the attack by Hamas, a vicious attack on civilians in southern Israel. 75% support the 10/7 massacre. 76% have a positive view of Hamas. 98.2% have a negative view of America. And 77.7% support a Palestine from the river to the sea, quote unquote. That is not a two-state solution where Israel exists. And she then gives a link to the source for this polling result. And she wants to know how I could possibly call for a ceasefire in light of that. And I'll respond. I mean, I'm not sure that I was right to sign the letter calling for a ceasefire. There are many factors involved. I did so out of a desire to express regret and concern about the loss of life that I saw that was coming, in the hope, perhaps unrealistic or idealistic hope, that there were paths forward that could avoid the many, many thousands of deaths that have ensued. But I must say, in response to the question, let me take everything that's given there at face value, that the Palestinian people in the West Bank and in the Gaza have a lot of sympathy and support for Hamas. She wants to know, how could I call for a ceasefire given that? And the logic of that claim is that if they hate us, we have to kill them. I am not taking their side. I'm simply pointing out, yes, there is enormous anti-Israeli and anti-Jewish enmity in the Palestinian population. That's a problem. I agree with you. That's a problem. Would that it were otherwise? How is it that the solution to that problem is to bomb? You say rooting out Hamas. Well, okay, good luck with that. Good luck with that project. Given the statistics that you've just called to my attention, good luck with the project of in a sanitized, antiseptic way, ridding the Palestinian people of Hamas when they have 98%, 76%, or 75% support. Good luck with that. That's my response.
It's such a hard thing. And I try to be open week by week to what informed people think about this issue. I personally have no visceral sense of, oh, go fuck them all up. It's just, how do you stop Hamas from doing that again? And if it's true that there is a way that you can go into Gaza, and unfortunately, there will be a tragic number of collateral deaths. But if the idea is to, as surgically as possible, stop Hamas, specifically Hamas fighters and the Hamas leadership, to take them out, it seems to me that despite that would create, another 2 generations of fiercely anti-Israel sentiment, that maybe if you got rid of Hamas today, you could keep that sentiment as just sentiment and do constructive things that would prevent there arising more Hamas. My impression was that was the idea. If that cannot be done, if somebody can tell me why that would be impossible, then I would change my sense of it. But who am I? If you don't get rid of Hamas, it seems to me that they're going to do that again. And that can't be. That's the hardest calculus I have ever faced on a war, but they can't do that again. How do you make it so that they can't? It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Okay, we have to talk about human shields and weapon stores and command controls on the hospitals and all of that. We have to acknowledge that the antiseptic and surgical removal of Hamas with, quote, as few civilian casualties as possible is kind of a dodge. It's kind of a dodge. This is more like you got to bomb the city, or it's more like you got to do the Hiroshima thing to get the Japanese to surrender at the end of the Second World War. And then you have to reckon with the moral problem. Isn't it a problem? You're going to tell me this is straightforward? I'm going to kill tens of thousands of people, but I'm going to accomplish my goal. Those people, most of them, are innocent, unless I'm supposed to read that polling data to say, you see, they support Hamas. They're not innocent after all. They are deserving of the rain of bombardment that's falling on them. And I have a hard time doing that.
No.
Try actually being born in Gaza. You didn't get a choice about that.
Yeah.
So World War II, the bombing of Dresden, the what had to be done to defeat the Japanese, that's the way you want to talk about managing the conflict between Israeli and Palestinian? You have a nuclear armed state with a massive modern military and with the support of the largest and most powerful nation, largest military and most powerful nation on the planet. And you have people crammed into this strip of land who are what they are with the history that they have. And you're talking about the opposition between those two forces in the same way that you talk about the West alliance of Britain and Germany and France and so forth against the Nazis, or about the way that the Americans had to confront the expansionist ambitions of the Japanese in the Pacific. You have lost touch with reality. Those are not anywhere near to close being the same things. Morally, people are not confronting, it seems to me, the horrific moral tragic dilemma that they're caught in. They think it's a clean-cut thing. No more Hamas. It ain't.
But Hamas can't do that again. Under no sense of morality, under no sense of the evolution of the human species. They can't do that again. And they insist that they will keep doing that until Israel doesn't exist. If that's how they feel, and I don't think that's a performance, that's how Hamas specifically really feels. They can't do that again. And what else could Israel do? They don't want to negotiate. Isn't that horrible? And yet, yes, what is it, 15,000 Gazans now? That's a huge number of innocent people.
These numbers have to have large standard errors around them because the sources are
tens of thousands.
But we know that a lot of people, and they're being displaced, their lives are being completely turned upside down.
And they're just people buying groceries and raising their kids.
And their enmity is being earned. They will, double down on their.
Glenn, do you think Israel should have turned the other cheek?
No, that would have been irresponsible. I think there had to be some reprisal just out of a deterrence kind of logic. I mean, and just out of a political compelling. Those families had to be reckoned with, not just the families of the dead, but also the families of the hostages. This was, if allowed to pass without some kind of definitive response, in effect, a surrender. It would have been a surrender to not have some kind of response. But I'm saying, as someone I read recently has said about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Truman might have been right. You remember that scene in Oppenheimer? You saw the film?
Mm-hmm.
Where at the end, and the bombs have been successfully constructed and executed, and the Japanese have surrendered, and Oppenheimer is having his own political problems after the war because people are questioning his loyalty and et cetera, et cetera. But in any case, he has an audience with the president. He was the guy the executive manager of the Manhattan Project, and the war was over. And he's in Truman's office, and he tries to give voice to his equivocation, to his ambivalence, to his insecurity about being the father of a weapon that had wrought so much horror. Many, many, many tens of thousands incinerated in an instant. And Truman scoffs. Truman says, you, in so many words, you livy-livered, panty-waist, intellectual egghead motherfucker. Don't you know this is war? I had to make the call. I made the call, goddammit. I made the call. And you're up here wringing your hands. I don't have the luxury of hand wringing. I was the commander-in-chief. I made the call. What? You could say that. He had to make the call. That doesn't change the fact that it was a crime against humanity to incinerate hundreds of thousands of people in the blink of an eye. That was a horrific deed.
Twice.
There's just no way around it. Necessary? Okay. You could persuade me of that. But that would not detract from the fact that it was a horrific deed. Your hands are drenched with blood.
Notice that The Japanese, though, they got past it. The essence of Japaneseness is not hating America for what it did. It would be good if Palestinians could approach it that way too, to move on, to allow that things happen that were not fair, things happen that were even quite brutal, but that to be a Palestinian is to be many things, many wonderful things. But the essence of being Palestinian is not hating what Israel did. I don't see that. And I pity them for that. That's all.